Good evening. Hello. We are starting with a snuggle bug who wants me to have all the snuggles and all the cuddles. How are people? Seems the camera is a little bit dark. I don't know if it wants to do something about that, or maybe that is just my view of things. Yeah, I know you want snacks. But good evening, good morning, good time of day, good warmth back to the land of Norway, and it is warm, so we shall see for how long I will survive in the workroom before I'm a little bit overheated. But we have ice water and kitties and all good things lined up for us today. I hope everyone is doing well. Madame Gargo is protecting us. Good evening, Vivian. Good to have you here. I am debating whether I want to be doing the crazy patchwork, which is this one, which is the very first thing that we started when I started doing lives. The embroidery for this one is a candidate, or whether we want to be working on the As You Like It shawl that I have been knitting on a couple of times now, because it is such a very nice project to work on while I am trying to chat with you and hanging out. You gonna settle there? Well, in that case, it might just be enough warmth with you on my lap, as opposed to trying to do everything else. Oops, where shall we put this? If you move this one. Hello, Leart. Welcome. I hope you are having a good time. It is quite warm in the workroom at the moment, so I hope everyone is staying safe. Greetings, Rhea. Nice to see you. We have starting with some hydration with some ice water, because it is the time to be hydrating. How's everyone doing? Are we relaxing, or are we working on stuff, getting stuff done, or crafting stuff, or whatever it may be, really? Good evening, Leia. Welcome. I have finally gotten my editing groove back, so I actually had to tear myself away from the editing to set up the live and talk to you, which I do so look forward to talking to you. So it wasn't a big problem, but I'm so happy that I've finally gotten that back, and I'm very excited to be editing again, and we shall see what comes of that, but I'm sure we will see soon enough. Should we go for subtle or just all out from this one? Should we just go all out, because I see some very glaring orange staring at me from the bottom of my embroidery pile, and summer does seem such an excellent time for bright colors and fun things like that. I don't think I have an open one. I suppose you are kind of an open one too. Quite light. Let's do the loud one for funsies. It's very loud on camera as well. If we can find the end of it. Don't think I've used many of the unopened hanks in this box yet. It's mostly been trying to tidy up what has already been used and seeing how. Good. Maria says, hi everyone, we're about to have a polar wave over here, so I've got my fingerless gloves on. They allow me to hand sew and keep warm at the same time. Well, I hope you stay very nice and warm and safe doing that. I wish I could send you some of the heat we are experiencing at the moment, and then maybe it would all even out, but things are not so easy, are they? Hello, Catherine. Welcome back. Vivian says, I am working on a 1940s knitted blouse. Can't wait to see what you'll be doing, what I'll be doing. Well, I guess we are starting with a little bit of crazy patchwork just because I think it'll be a little bit too warm to knit and have a sleeping void on lap, so that's one of the downsides of wool, isn't it? That it can get warm in summer, but I do enjoy it so I don't really mind. Catherine says, I'm making a collage on a greeting card. That does sound like a lot of fun. I haven't done a lot of that, but I see many creative people making many glorious things in collages and fun things. Good morning from Texas, USA. Good morning, Mariam. It is evening here in Norway, so it's always interesting to talk to people in very different time zones. Owly Lady says good morning. No, good evening, sorry, I can read. Here we have a very warm day, luckily indoors only, barely above heat limit. Yeah, it is quite warm in Norway as well. It's the kind of warm where if you live in thunder-prone country, you know, that kind of heavy heat that precedes a thunderstorm, you know, just before the clouds finally release all that pressure, all that tension, and the temperature drops significantly. And we have indeed a lot of rain forecasted for tonight and tomorrow, so it shall be interesting to see. It is quite a lot forecasted, so I will be quite curious to see just how that will go. But I do enjoy watching thunderstorms. That was something we used to do when I grew up. We would sit out on a, you know, covered awning, or what I should call it, outside where we didn't get wet, and we could just look at the rain and look at the thunder and just being safe, knowing that everything had been unplugged and that we were not on a height or anything like that, which was very nice if you are not afraid of such things. Thank you, I'm so glad you are doing this. My region feels like an impending heat wave too. Well, I am glad you are having a good time. It is ever so nice to just be able to chat and hang out and take a break. At least for me, this is a break. I have been editing today, finally getting back into the groove a bit, which I have been sorely missing and fighting to get back into, such as it is sometimes when our brains don't want to collaborate with us. But it is nice to take a little break, even when you're in the groove, just to, you know, make sure that you attend to breaks and brain things and make sure you stay in a good working place and don't just work yourself into the ground, because then you have the same problem all over again, don't you? Let's see, Catherine says, I'm repurposing some gorgeous labeling designs from wholesome eggs. That sounds like a lot of fun. I had a neighbor once who did some lovely collages, and she gave us some gift tags and cards and other things, and we sort of addressed, especially the gift tags, we addressed them to each other, like the spouse to me and me to spouse, so that we could keep giving them back and forth to each other so that they wouldn't just get given away to someone else and vanish into the ether as they threw it away, because it's quite fun to have someone handmade. So we have saved a few of them and given away some, but we have at least a couple There are dedicated back and forth gift tags, which I think is very lovely. Leia says, we had the thunderstorm with a 10-degree temperature drop this afternoon. It's nice again outside. Yeah, I shall look forward to that tomorrow. Looking at the weather forecast, it looks like it'll come either before or as I'm sleeping, and then throughout the night. So I shall hopefully wake up to a very nice and cool Friday morning, which will be very nice indeed. It's only been a few days of heat, so I shouldn't be complaining. But it shall be very, very nice nonetheless. I should probably do dusting first. Very interesting. Then we shall see. Well, I hope you also take care of yourself, Aldi lady. I am not terribly good at dusting, but spouse does vacuum a lot more often than I do while I clean the kitchen, so it's nice to try to stay on top of things without breaking, without being too exhausted and, you know, it affecting other things and other functions. It's a difficult balance, but one I hope you shall manage. Yeah, we haven't seen this crazy quilt in a while. It's the same size as the crazy patchwork that I did on the channel. I just made another one because I had more backing fabric and I thought it would be fun. I haven't decided if it will be another pouch. It probably will be, because it's a nice big pouch size. I still want to do more of these because they are quite a lot of fun and they do use up the scraps. I had a friend teach me English paper piecing recently and I love it. It's so versatile and so fun. But my scraps are often so much smaller than those adorable hexagons, so I think there is still very much a room for both techniques in order to try to make use of what we already have in our workrooms and fabric stashes and whatnot. Smithy says, good morning. I had a wild week that included taking a spill from my bike, oh no, on the way home from the dentist and then getting a couple stitches on my chin for my efforts. I'm doing all good now. Well, I'm very glad that you are doing good. That does sound like quite an adventure. So I'm hoping you are safe now and not in too much pain from such arduous adventures. Sounds dangerous to go outside. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. So much safer if we just stayed in our workrooms and crafted, and although we probably would manage to find ourselves some accidents there too, knowing myself. But I'm glad you are safe. Welcome. Let's have a chill little evening so that you don't risk yourself doing any more stuff for the moment, shall we? And Stripy Crayons also giving commiserations, maybe? Sympathies, I should say. Making sure that everyone is resting and taking care of themselves. I don't think this one shall have any very detailed embroideries stuff, because embroidering and talking does not seem to be very easy for my brain, so we shall keep it easy so that we shall be able to chat at the same time. And I still think it will be fun when it is finished, because it's something about a lot of small steps all coming together into a bigger whole, isn't it? Where it looks impressive even if the technique at the bottom is simple, and I really love those kinds of projects. And Stripy Crayon starting with, hello folks, I just used up some really pretty seed beads that I've had in my stash for a while, though I'm almost out and haven't yet found more. Stash busting has its risk. I suppose it does, but then again, it is nice to finally get to use the good stuff, something you've been saving on, something fun. I find that enormously rewarding. Especially if I finally find a project that makes me go, Yes, this is the project for us. This is the one that fits this particular thing. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's nice to finally get to use the thing you've been saving for a while. And Sabina says, hey, I've been in the garden enjoying the sun all day, now making my favorite food just for me as I'm home alone tonight. That is also very nice once in a while, isn't it? I find the contrast, whether you live alone or whether you live with someone, can be quite nice to just get a little bit of variety once in a while and then appreciate the other when it returns to normal. And we are about to have some ads, the first of the evening. If you're not familiar, we pause for ads here so you don't miss anything. Don't worry, I'm just gonna have some water. I encourage you as well to keep yourself hydrated, especially if it's warm where you are, but you don't miss out on anything. Are you hydrating too? Maybe we shall do a kitty cam just while we are waiting. Let's see. Bad camera. Oop, but one we can move. Suppose I can move the... Oop. Suppose we can actually move the big camera as well, but it is a bit further away, so I would have to set it up so that I could reach it if I was to do that. But yes, if you did get ads, welcome back. Don't worry, you don't miss anything apart from apparently at the moment a little bit of kitty cam. She isn't asleep, she's just chilling, you know, restful eyes, just hanging out. Hello. Oh, out of the way, madam. But yeah, you shan't miss anything, so don't worry about that. We're very chill in that regard. Smithy say, it was an adventure indeed. I've been mostly just achy now and felt well enough to play kickball last night, but taking it mostly easy. That sounds like a very good decision indeed. Okay, so I shall wish you a continued speedy recovery, because it's no fun to take a tumble like that, especially if one has a bit of speed, as can happen when one is biking around. I really enjoy biking in summer though, because you get such a lovely, air on your face as you're biking. You get the chill. You don't have to be in a stuffy bus that often gets very warm in summer. And my favorite part when I worked at NTNU, or one of the favorite parts, was that when you finished work, you had the queue of cars standing almost still as you were heading out from work. You could just pass them on your bike and wave to the cars standing very much still as you breezed past and was home faster than any of they were. I have to say, I'm petty enough to think that was a great fun. Yeah, heading into the city or heading to work when it's warm and nice and you can just control your own schedule is lovely. It's ironic, I love biking. I also like taking the bus, but I don't like driving. But biking, absolutely. Especially if it's reasonably flat and easy, so you're not too sweaty when you get there. I do enjoy, I'm lucky enough to be able to enjoy that. And I absolutely do when I can. Leia says, I've been out with a friend / co-worker for lunch to celebrate that we have vacation time now, and now I'm spinning my silk fibers into very thin thread. That sounds like an excellent way to celebrate. I do support this way of celebrating vacation time. Doro says, hello everybody. Hello Doro, welcome. We are having a lovely, calm, at the moment, at least in Norway, warm time, whilst I'm working on this little crazy patchwork pouch that in many ways opened this whole live streaming venture, as I thought it was a reasonably not too complicated project that I would be able to do whilst chatting to everyone, and has since ended up lying on the sidelines while we're doing all sorts of other stuff. But this one deserves to be worked on too, doesn't it? Smithy says, I don't have a car, so bike and bus are my main transit methods. It's wonderful to not be constrained by cars and roads and worry. I do agree. I do very much agree. We do have a car. Mostly it's an old used little car. It's reasonably small. It's because it's a accessibility device for my spouse that we have one. It really helps them get out and about in their daily life. We've talked about this before. How I love buses, and they're a big accessibility thing for me, along with bikes, and for my spouse they are not. So it's always interesting to talk about and think about how one person's accessibility tool is another person's inaccessibility, because it's quite ironic, but a spouse and I have quite different needs, which always reminds me that just because something accommodates one person doesn't mean it accommodates the next, and why we need to have different tools and different things for different people if we are to get anywhere. That's where I put it. I know what I'm doing. But I do so love a bike in summer. I did get a gear to go biking in winter too, which I still don't mind. It's quite alright to be able to get. I do love buses again, but being able to go places without thinking about bus routes or timetables or things is also pretty awesome, I have to admit. The freedom of being able to choose to take the bus or the bike is pretty awesome, in my opinion. Don't have underground here where I am, but there's my needle. But that can be fun too, although I remember when we were in London, the underground was always a couple of degrees hotter than above ground, which could be a challenge in sweltering summer heats, so that was something to be keeping an eye on. We did have one passenger faint while I was going to work, and she was luckily taken very quick care of, but I have the utmost respect for heat and people who live in much hotter climates than Norway, because it surely is no joke. And Norway doesn't even, at least not that I can remember, get up to degrees like 40 degrees, past body temperature, but where do you even hide then when you can't sweat to decrease your temperature, because the ambient temperature is warmer than your body temperature? It's not hard to understand how people die from heat stroke in such climes. It's quite warm. I probably can't even imagine. I can only imagine my opposite, which is quite cold. But even then, it isn't quite as cold here as some other places, so I shan't be complaining. But yeah, we are going on with this embroidery of this little thing that brings me joy to know that all of these little pieces have been used largely in their entirety and don't get wasted, and then covered with, in this case, very bright and very fun embroidery in all sorts of shenanigan colors. I'm not very good about using colors a whole lot. I like subdued colors quite naturally, but I think it is fun to be able to use them once in a while when they are on the, shall we say, on decor, on pouches, on handmade things, in embroidery designed into patterns, that kind of thing. It sort of gives you an excuse if there's a rainbow of flowers in in a flower bouquet or in a garden or just various fun things. Okay. Heat exhaustion is really unpleasant as well. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I can absolutely agree. I've had them a couple of times and they are no joke. I haven't gone all the way to heat stroke, which is very dangerous. But heat exhaustion is more than unpleasant, and yeah, I do understand Australians who are very good about sun hats and sunscreen and hydrating, and a lot more than, as far as I can tell, we are in Europe about such things. Here you just get odd looks if you wear a hat like I do to protect you from the sun, which I do wish we would be a little more cautious, even though we do enjoy the sun when she peeks out. You do too, although your black fur does make it quite warm when you come in again. Interestingly, Soda's been largely inside in the heat. I think it gets a little bit too much for the madams, even though they are desert creatures. Yeah, you know you're fabulous because we're talking about you. You are a very good girl. Maria says, I'm finishing up hemming a dress pants for a client and to be done for today, though it seems tomorrow I'll have my hands full with reconstructing a dress shirt collar out of repurposed sleeves fabrics. That sounds very exciting indeed. I hope you have a good time with that, even though it's always a little bit different when it's work, but it is very nice when we can manage to enjoy work as well. It was one of my favorites when I worked at university, was playing with the instruments and getting them to collaborate and do what you want, and the look on a student's face when they finally get a concept they've been struggling with. So satisfying. So there's always aspects to a job that are less pleasant than others, but finding those moments that refuels your spirit is so valuable. Like these lives, honestly, these lives I find to be very refueling in many ways, to make me continue on to do other work later, and hanging out with people and hearing what you're making. And I get comments from people making the, at the moment, As You Like It shawl and other projects that I've made videos about, and that does make me very happy to see that you are making things, not necessarily directly from the videos, but if they made you want to make something, anything, that does make me very happy to see people being creative and not letting, you know, capitalism or whatever tell you that you can't do a thing and you should just buy the service, because why? We have so many skills to be able to make things and take care of stuff, so I do not believe we should just buy our way out of every inconvenience, because it can be so much fun to try to craft a solution to something instead. But I know that I'm biased in that regard. Smithy says, I'm currently playing with my cat with a toy I carved myself and tied yarn to. All is well. Oh, that is so amazing. It is something about cat that the best toys are either random trash that is lying around or something that handmade. When we first adopted Enya, good morning, our old lady cat, who was 12 years when we got her and 16 when she passed away, was given to us as an old lady cat from the, you know, the rescue center, the adoption center, and they told her she was not playful at all. And having no experience with older cats, and this one in particular, we were like, okay, that I assume that is that is how it is. So we got her food and water and litter box and everything, but we didn't get her any toys, which turned out to be a grave mistake, because Madame was indeed playful. She just needed to have a bit of quiet surrounding her, so we had to post haste find an old cork and tie a string to it so that she could lie on her bum and, you know, whack. She was never a very lively, playful cat, but she loved to lie on her back and whack at toys as they were swinging by her. That was her preferred mode of playing, and cork on a string was the best toy for many, many years, even after we got better toys for her. And the myth that she was not a playful cat was just utterly, utterly false. She was a very sweet madam. She just needed calm about her. The foster home also told us that she wasn't really eating or drinking, and they had given her, you know, a workup to check if the kidneys were alright, and we noticed when she came to, because cats are timid when they first arrive, aren't they? They don't like changes and they don't like new places, so she was lying on the couch all day while we were awake, but it didn't take us that long to find out that, with just a few sleepless nights, to notice that she was indeed both eating and drinking, no problem, just at night when we couldn't really hear or see her and she was by herself. So they hadn't picked up on that, but she was very sweet. It was very nice to let her have her last years with us. She was a very sweet and cuddly cat. Catherine says, I too find these lives immensely refueling. Well, I'm glad. That's why we do them, isn't it? To give a little bit of a breathing room among all the other chaos happening in our lives and online and what have you. It's nice to be able to have some pit stops once in a while, some park benches littered about where we can just chill, because there are more than enough demands on our time. Shall we do with the rest of the thread? Shall we make more stars? I like this kind of creativity where you just go, as it were, and do various things. Oh, maybe we should try the gingham embroidery, since this one happens to have stripes. And we can try to do various patterns. Stripey Crayon says, cats and crafts make our homes more cozy. I found my roommate's cats could be fascinated by a spinning drop spindle. Oh, I will absolutely believe you about that. It has wool and it's moving, and yeah, our cats would be utterly, utterly fascinated. I have no doubts. That sounds like excellent fun. And we are about to have some ads again. Let's see. Where's my little hydration bottle? Are you alright? Just twitchy? Okay. I can't quite believe that you want to lie on a lap in this heat, but then again, I am not cat, I suppose. Yeah, pets do make the home more pleasant, doesn't it? Doesn't have to be cats. I know some people just love dogs beyond anything else, and honestly, those innocent pets just hanging out, just being themselves can be immensely rewarding. Or like just wanting to hang out with you for no reason other than you are their favorite human, and that's all they want. That's all they ask for. And of course with cats showing you that if you don't want to do a thing, just remove yourself from the situation. Whereas I've been staying indoors where it's cooler, my cat has chilled on the warm balcony. Wow. Yeah, Suta's been out inside with me most of the day. I don't know if that is because I'm in the workroom and she just wants to hang out with me, or if it's something else, but she has been inside as well. They have a little catio on the outside where they can hang out. Embla, though, is still young and energetic and will come in and out throughout the day. I think it does get warm with black fur, so they like to change it up once in a while. Maybe it's a kitty blanket. But yeah, she will come inside with her fur all toasty warm, knowing she's been sunbathing in the grass in the catio, just having the best of times. And of course yelling at the birds a bit. Birds are very, very rude. You won't just fly directly into her mouth. Cats are very good teachers of consent and boundaries. Yeah, I think they can be a great help in that regard too. And learning to read body language as well, like learning to see when they tense up and when they're cautious. And many different things. But yeah, just being allowed to just hang out and be themselves and just asking no more than that. It was almost, we were so used to not being allowed cats that when we were in a place that it was allowed, it did take us a while to think about that and realize that we could. And of course, since then it has had to be something that we need, because these aren't just pets of convenience, and as much as we are able to, we will always bring them with us and take care of them. Give them the best life we are able to do. And it's not like you can explain to them if you have to leave them or move or what have you, but we can at least take care of them the best we can. And dogs are good teachers of joyful exploring. Oh, that I will believe. Yeah, our landlord has a dog that we will sometimes watch them for them, because they are very nice landlords, and it is a very nice thing that we can exchange pet sitting services. And indeed, when we go for walks, she is the happiest puppy there ever was. She is such a sweet girl, and it is, yeah, it always makes me pause more on our walks, because she is so enthusiastic about sniffing all of the things, and it reminds you to take a break yourself to do the same thing. Similar to how I feel about these lives, to be honest. Not that you're not that you're dogs, but in the way that I was talking about how I finally managed to get some of my editing groove back and have been enjoying getting some progress on a project, and still taking the time to sit down and hang out and relax together, have a bit of a break as long as the weather will let me do so before it gets too warm. And it is very nice to take a break even when things are moving forward, even when there is progress, because if we don't, then it's difficult to have a balanced work-life balance, and you risk being not able to work on stuff again in not too long because you get impatient. Not that I have any experience with that. But I am lucky in that I do enjoy working and I enjoy progressing on stuff. I always remember it can be very difficult to feel progression when you're stuck or struggling or with writing or what have you, and a lot of digital work I feel can be very frustrating because it's hard to see the progress you're making physically. Like in this case, I have this piece of cloth that I'm working on and I can point at exactly what kind of embroidery I have been making while we have been chatting, but if I was doing thinky work, planning what I wanted to do with the editing or the video of a thing, then how do I prove that I did work? How do I prove to myself and the world that thinking was achieved and something was done? And I think that can be a big part of why it can be difficult to do certain thinking work and office jobs, because it's hard to actually see the progress that you're making. And I see people advising people to write down milestones in a little brag chart so that when you ask what you do in your job, you actually have something for, I don't know, promotions or applying for new jobs or things like that, because it can be very difficult to come up with on the spot, can it? Like, what did I do for 3 years at whatever place we were working at? But if we can manage to write it down, sometimes that can be really helpful. But I know with myself that I forget that quite a bit, so I don't blame you if you don't either, but I do see that as a piece of advice that people share in order to help people feel more, to help them see the progress and the work that they're actually doing, even though it's on a screen. It's harder because it's intangible and our brains are kind of wired for the tangible still, but we are trying to exist in the digital age as much as we can, as well as we can. It's interesting how different it is to progress on a physical project of something and how it feels to try to progress on editing a video or writing a script or researching for a script or a video or something like that. And maybe they shouldn't be so different, but in many ways they feel that way, so having tools for both is helpful. Good morning. Oh, we are just repositioning. What are we gonna do if you don't hang out with us on the lives? It's gonna be very empty. Oh, very lonely. How can we do this without getting in your face? Of course, you can't be a cat without trying to be maximum in the way possible, because you are queen and shall have all of the attention. Hi. Yep. You do have a bit of eye gunk. Oh. I think we shall have just enough orange thread cut off from this hank or skein or what you want to call it, which is always very satisfying. Deeply, deeply satisfying when you have just enough thread. You know, just the right amount of nonsense. Or maybe now that I've spoken it out loud, I shall indeed jinx myself and end up with just not enough and having to get a little bit more just to finish the last couple of stitches. Now I'm wondering, we shall see where we shall get. Ooh, and then we can look at some gingham embroidery patterns and do some other stuff in other colors if we wanted to. How mad. I don't think I did any different colors for the first one, but I am indeed doing different colors for various stitches in this one. Do we have an example? Yes. Have some... Can you even see this? Some purple and yellowish green, I guess I would call it. I don't have too many in different colors yet, but maybe this shall become a forever project that is just a safe backup if we don't know what we're doing for a live, that we can just grab and keep working on, and in a few years it'll be completely covered in various embroidery, just ridiculously over embroidered with all sorts of fun nonsense. That could be kind of fun. It's also fun to finish things, so we shall see. I wouldn't be surprised if I just jinxed myself, but fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I'm always amused by the stories of people talking about scientists being some pinnacle of objectivity, and yet every lab you've been in having some sort of altar or shrine of weird random science objects, or some specific ritual you need to perform in order to make old instrument work and do the job, because it hasn't been updated since 1919 something, and you can't update the Windows because software is not compatible with newer stuff, and you just have to close your eyes and hope that it doesn't get any sort of firmware or anything like that. And they sum it up the best when they say that science, at least to some degree, observation may be objective, although I have my comments about that too, because how we measure things, what we choose to look for, and how we choose to measure things does still have a degree of subjectivity from what we prioritize and how we look at science. But if we argue that science or observation may be objective, then scientists are still human. Scientists are still subjective, so there is a lot more superstition in labs than a lot of people want to admit or realize, which is always a very fun juxtaposition, I suppose I should say. Hey? You are being very cute. Must be hard being so cute. And terribly distracting. Almost there. Let's just see. Still not enough attention for you. You know, you're gonna fall off my lap if you keep... There you go. You'd think these amazing predators had more self-preservation skills, and Soot isn't even the worst of them. Soot is pretty good with taking care of herself. She just doesn't care that she's about to fall off. whenever stuff is happening. One more, I think. I hope everyone has had a nice Pride month that is now almost over, a nice June, a nice, I guess, end to the first half of the year, which is insane. In just a few days we'll be on the other side of the year and halfway through to the next one. It's old-fashioned, I guess, but there's something to that. Time going faster the older you get, which I'm feeling more and more the older I get myself. Ooh. Yeah, okay, we had a little bit too much thread, but at least we managed to get all the way to the end without incident. That does feel quite lucky. And we are about to have ads again, but before that I do think I have time to show you one, oops, a rather strange piece of patchwork. Folding the pattern already, so one more step on the long step of many things to patchwork. Isn't there something so reassuring about that though? Just one step after the other towards a vague goal at some point, which shall remain undefined. Oh, this is my thread, madam. I know it can look a bit enticing, but it is not for you. You are exceptionally tolerant of random stuff lying on top of you, I must say. I guess we just decided that green was going to be the next color, so let's see what we can make. Should probably find some leaf patterns of some kind. They're always so cute. Don't think I have any quick. Or do I? There was that one stitch in the little patchwork box that Leia says, when I see your little patchworks I feel like doing one for myself, but what is time? I have too many patchwork, I have too many projects already. Indeed. So this is one of my, I suppose I should call it backup projects that I can just do whenever the fancy strikes, to keep the attention moving, and also to have something that is quite easy to pick up and put down without a lot of risk is perhaps a wrong word, but without a lot of prestige or anything like that attached to it. You just do one thing after the other and it progresses and it grows, and at some point we reach the end, maybe. They are fun little scrap busters, but as so many scrap busters, they also do take a fair amount of time. Because everything involving those tiny bits of fabric scraps are going to take a while, aren't they? If you're going to stitch all of those edges and corners as opposed to just cutting out the fabric piece from a whole bolt of cloth. Oh, why must the fabrics I'd gladly use away be unsuitable or unmatching for patchwork? And those I'd like to save for other uses make the most of the potential ones. I know, right? Sometimes it can be very difficult. Although I have seen some people make the most glorious use out of all sorts of different fabrics by specifically making them for quilts they're not going to wear. Maybe they're going to be decorative, maybe they're going to do other stuff, and then it is less problematic that they are all sorts of strange fabrics. I've seen some glorious stuff with English paper piecing and stuff like that, where it just becomes one glorious mesh of all the textures and, hello madam, all the different things, and that just looks like a lot of fun, to be honest with you. They just take all the fabrics and textures, even if they seem like they wouldn't match, even if they're different fabrics or fabric weights, and just combining them anyway because they can. And I think there's a lot of fun to that. That kind of artistic freedom. Although I will admit I do like separating mine into plant fibers and wool, because that does give me a certain amount of joy. Hello? But at least I seem to already have canvas for the backing of a picnic quilt. That sounds most excellent and most awesome start to a good project. I'll be honest, I do kind of want to... Good evening. Want to make a wool patchwork scrap fabric with all the wool leftovers, all the wool fabric scraps that I have. And that would be a truly long-term project, wouldn't it? It would probably span years, because if it's big enough to do a bedspread or a quilt or a blanket or something like that, and you're doing it in tiny fabric pieces, it's gonna be a time. It's gonna take a while, but it would be an amazing, awesome project if we managed to get that far. I'm not even sure I have enough wool scraps at the moment to do that. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Some of my wool scraps are bigger, but I feel like this is the kind of project that could just keep growing as you're adding to it, and as you're working on projects you implement the scraps into the quilt and it just becomes this huge thing that you just do. That could be kind of fun. Maybe that's the way to spread out patchwork. I know people do patchwork blocks, but maybe you could do it as almost on a project to project basis, like you do a project and then you finish up with something else, and then the block, as the blocks grow, you just see all the different projects that you've been working on throughout a timeline that could be pretty long, just as a memory type quilt for all the different projects you've been working on. That could be great fun. Don't know how feasible it is to have such a large long-term project looming in the background, but the idea is certainly alluring to me, at least. Be like a little memorabilia. Maybe it should be a tapestry hanging in your workroom that you just keep working on and adding onto one project block at a time until you have a history of your projects in the workroom in all its glory and various shapes and sizes and fun things. I don't know. Ideas are cheap. It's always much harder with the execution, isn't it? Actually doing the thing and getting it done, and not just having yet more VIPs lying around in the workroom looking at you, daring you to finish them. Yeah, I know it's a lot happening around you at the moment, madam, but that is kind of how it is when we are hanging out doing projects and having a live with people, even if you would prefer if your fur didn't get ruffled from me moving the project about. Alex says, good day everyone. Good day, Alex. I hope you are having a good day. We are just hanging out as usual. I am back to from some of the very first lives, this very old, well, not very old, but this piece of crazy patchwork from way back when I first started live streaming and was very nervous and very, very anxious and did not know what to expect or what to do or how to do things. So as a little bit of a homage, and also because it's a project that at some point, I hope, will get finished too. Although sometimes I do wonder if some projects are just meant to lie in the background and look at you. I have a friend who loves to do things like estate sales. They will scour, secondhand online stuff, similar to Craigslist in the US. I don't know what other, and Gumtree in the UK. That's kind of secondhand. People put out their stuff for resale or inheritance and try to sell it or give it away, and she likes to check those things out. And at one point I got a tablecloth that is one of those embroidery kits with the embroidery of these beautiful blue flowers printed onto it, and it's sitting in my drawer and I would like to work on it, but those projects are so big and take so long that I don't know if I ever will actually get to starting it. What's it going to be? Well, this is exactly the same shape as the crazy quilting thingy that I actually made a video of because I had more fabric in this size. I also have some smaller pieces, so probably I was thinking of making a hussif, but I think it shall be too large. I already think my hussif is a bit large and I'm considering making a smaller one, but most likely it shall be another little pouch, possibly for knitting needles, possibly for other projects, possibly a gift for someone. It's one of those projects that I feel is pretty versatile, where once it's made you can use it for many different things. Maybe it's a toiletries bag for traveling. Who knows how it's going to be used by the other person, or if I keep it myself. I haven't quite decided. I shall finish it first and then we shall see, but I think it wants to be a pouch. That was the original plan anyway, and then anything beyond that we shall see. Tuyan says, "Hi everyone, I just returned from the shops on foot. I'm cooked by the heat. I hope you stay safe. If you are anywhere like where we are in Norway at the moment, it is quite warm, so let's all make sure to hydrate unless you are in parts of the world where it is unseasonably cold at the moment. In any case, I hope everyone stays safe and takes care of their needs and listens to their body, such as it is, although that can be quite difficult sometimes to figure out what your body is actually trying to say. At least I can find that a bit challenging, to be like, I have a feeling, but it is complex and not clearly one or the other. What is it that I'm feeling? What is it that my body is trying to tell me? And then you're kind of just as far as you were in the beginning, just now with additional mystery. So that makes me wonder, are there people who know exactly what they're feeling all of the time? Or is it actually pretty common to be like, I don't really know, I'm trying to figure it out as I go? Tian says, Northern Italy, yesterday was cold, it's a mess. Oh yeah, I can sympathize. The weather here has been quite strange. But we are forecasted some rain tonight, so I shall be looking forward to it. And hoping that everything stays safe, because we're also forecasted some thunder. I don't mind it, I have no rational fear of thunder. I have no rational fear of a lot of things, although I fear other things like crowds and people and making a fool of myself in a way that, saying unkind things can be bad, fearful. But I don't have fear for a lot of the normal things that a lot of other people have fears of, like heights and thunder and various wildlife events. So I shall just be sleeping as normal and remember the times when we would sit on the porch or under the awning, or what I should call it, and look at the thunderstorm, having unplugged everything in the house, making sure everything was safe, and then just getting to sit and look at the thunder and lightning, having a party all over. That was always quite fun to me. We had quite a nice view over a small valley, so we got to see a fair bit. It was supposed to be good views for New Year's Eve as well, but it was always foggy on New Year's Eve, so it didn't really help all that much. But the sentiment was there. We would have had a good view to many different smaller towns around if it hadn't been so cloudy, but alas. I remember many a New Year's Eve where we didn't really see anything what was going on, but we could hear it going on somewhere in the distance. I think as long as I'm in a house, most weather doesn't frighten me, except tornadoes. That is a good point, Stripey Candy K. Oops, I'm sorry. Stripey Crayons. I do have a solid respect for tornadoes. They seem terrifying. I do not live in tornado country, so I have never actually experienced one. We get more blizzards and winter gales, but not in the same way that you get tornadoes. That sounds absolutely terrifying. I do have respect of extreme weather though, because I know it can be so dangerous to a lot of people, especially when it's extremely hot or extremely cold. That can quite quickly turn bad for someone, especially if they are unhoused or elderly or something like that. I feel like it's every year that we get news about an elderly person having either escaped from a care home or just gotten lost in general, and the race against the clock to try to find them before they get too cold. But I do feel like, as a society, at least in Norway, people don't really want to take weather into consideration much anymore, at least when it comes to capitalism and getting to and from work, and respecting that weathers are sometimes just too extreme to get you anywhere. I always remember that people will always struggle in the winter when the roads get icy because they want to get to work in the same amount of time that it always takes. They don't want to spend extra time wiping or like defrosting, de-icing the windshield and driving carefully to take great care in the ice, because it always takes 20 minutes and they have very little time, and they sadly get into accidents because the weather will show us that it shall not be ignored. We have in no way conquered it by technology. Weather can still do a lot of interesting, dangerous, and extreme things. Tian says, a few days ago we had a storm, not even half an hour, but the hail was like golf balls. Oh wow, that does sound very harsh. We haven't been having any hail here. We've just been having the kind of weather that is bright sunshine in one moment and then super heavy rain for like 5 minutes, and then it's back to being overcast and suddenly it's sunny. So it's been very, very changeable indeed, and that has been quite strange. But yeah, we shall have ads in a moment. You don't miss anything if you get ads, so I will answer Joanna's question in a moment. Just give us a moment. I think that is okay, but yes, hello Joanna. Welcome to your question of notification several hours in advance when I plan live streams. We do have that of sorts in the Discord. If you look at the pinned comment, there is a link to a Discord, our community Discord. Let's see if I can just share an invite as well. And our sort of hybrid solution to whether we what am I doing? Do lives or not is kind of that I put in the Discord that I am intending to hopefully do a live at a specific time. We're trying at the moment to do Thursdays at 6 p.m. Norwegian time, because that seems to be a time that works quite well for me, so I'm experimenting with that. But the thing is that I do get my troublesome migraines, and I never know when they're gonna knock me out completely and I'm gonna have to cancel. And if I have scheduled something on YouTube, I feel like it's a bigger, I don't know, maybe that's just in my head, but that is kind of more expected. People maybe get more disappointed if something has been scheduled and planned and looked forward to, and then without explanation it gets cancelled and removed and no longer something that they can look at, and they wonder why. And if that happens a lot, then they understandably get frustrated. So the hybrid solution that we have found for that is that I post in a live stream group, and you can join a live stream role. There is this whole section called channels and roles where you can check various things and join groups and get notifications about. And the live stream group is one of them, and then you can get notified when a live is forthcoming in some time. But I don't have any plans of doing that, because it does make me feel more comfortable to not expand it to the wider YouTube audience. But there is a Discord group for that. I understand people having older laptops and stuff like that, but at the moment we are experimenting with Thursdays at 6 p.m. so I'm trying to do that for, again, Norwegian time. I shall try to do that for a couple of weeks. Summers are always a bit hectic and things might get cancelled, but there is a good chance that we shall try it at that time, if that is so. Your laptop is 13 years old? Oh, that is, yeah, old laptops unite. They can do good work for a good time still. Depending on, I don't know if you have a newer phone. Discord is also a phone app, but that is at the moment how we are solving things, because they aren't. I would be more comfortable scheduling lives a long time in advance if there was something special about them. If I was interviewing someone, or we were talking about a very specific topic, or I've seen people, celebrate various milestones and things like that, or I see people doing very specific things, having it like a little bit of a party, a watch party of sorts, but we are just hanging out. I don't feel like it is sufficiently special. Sometimes I don't even know what to talk about, and it can be but we are trying around this time on Thursdays, if that works for you. That is sort of the time that works best for my brain. We have discovered through the trial and error of the last couple of months, so we are trying. Smartphone is also 10 years old? Yeah, I can understand that. It can be a struggle. I have lived with old phones for most of my life as well. All of my life, I should. No, there was that one time I was given a phone when I was a young tween or teenager. I don't even remember how young I was, but I had explicitly stated that I didn't want to have a phone because I didn't want people knowing where I was at any and all times, and I would not like to receive a phone so that people could call me at any and all hours, so that I could just go for a walk in the forest by myself if I so wanted to. And what did I get? It was before smartphones were a thing, way before smartphones. that I was given a Siemens of some kind, a little, tiny little phone just for texting, and remembering when everyone had the Nokia 3210 and I didn't. I had something else, but I was quite miffed at that gift because it was something I had explicitly stated that I didn't want, and yet I got it anyway, so my family felt safer knowing where I was. And that was my phone for a long, long time, until I got some friends who really liked Apple products, and I would get their 5 years plus old Apple products because they had gotten new products, and then I suddenly had a smartphone for university, but everything still cost money to text and stuff. So, how old is the phone I have now? How old is? It's pretty new. I still feel like it's a pretty new phone. It's an iPhone SE. How old are you? Age? Oh, there are different generations. Yeah, I still feel like it's pretty new, so I'm guessing it's the one that is released in 2020. Which, yeah, it's just 4 years old, so it's very new for a phone. Still very happy with that. Very lucky to have that kind of phone. Let's see, Lynn, oh, I see Patchwork. Yes, we are doing a little bit of work on this old Patchwork project to see if we can make some progress. Maybe at some point we will finish it, but it was a throwback to the very first lives that we did, where this was the project of choice, and indeed it is quite interesting. Anna says, my smartphone is from 2012, but it's on its very last leg. It's not a money thing. I just don't want to buy a new as long as the one I have works. I totally understand that. Before I had this one, I had the old iPhone SE, I think from 2016, so it's still... And that one was about... So if... Wait, I can't do math. I had that one for, I think, 10 years, and then I got this one used. And I have been very happy with it and I shall hope to be very happy with it for many, many years to come, because I think electronics should last for at least 10 years before it starts hiccuping, and if it don't, I get all sorts of miffed. Tian says, I don't have a smartphone for now, it's not a necessity, and I admit I hate the zombification. I have a new Nokia 3310. I can really understand that it is. And again, I've been talking about this before, but the expectations that, you know, putting everything on the consumer to avoid phone addiction and things like that, when we know that some of the smartest people in the world are working very hard to make apps and games and things that are addictive. I do have thoughts about that. You know, putting a very addictive, colorful device that just speaks to all of the monkey brain things, that makes all the noises and hits all the dopamine and all of the things, and then saying it's all on the consumer to choose to put it in a different room, choose to not use it, choose to turn the saturation down, turn off the notifications, and use it responsibly. I'm not sure if I agree that it is entirely on the shoulders of the consumer to be careful about not getting addicted to a tiny little computer that can access so much of the world's information in almost no time at all compared to how things used to be, when you had to look things up in the library or in books, or just accept that you didn't know the answer to a thing. So I do really like that the internet has given us so much knowledge and connected us, and that we can do things like lives, but I also know that it has, you know, the coin always has a backside as well, that there are definite challenges to it, and I am not sure if putting all that responsibility and blame on the consumer when you have one brain trying to fight against all of these brilliant minds working together to create the most addictive and fun and colorful apps that they can. It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Trying to create content that in many ways are urging you not to consume and be addicted to things and go make things and go talk to people who bring you joy and make things with your hands, and in some ways discouraging you from the very content that I am producing. There is a certain juxtaposition there, but at the same time people do need their distractions and maybe their respite if they are doom scrolling or struggling, and maybe we can help pull someone out of that. I don't know, maybe that is too idealistic. It's something that I think about quite a lot, because obviously it affects how I do my work, but yeah, how can we internet in an ethical way, in a good way, because it's certainly a good tool for spreading knowledge and connecting people, and especially, you know, at-risk youth who maybe don't have anyone like them in a small village, and then they can find an online community that supports them. But there are so many different considerations to things. Joanna says, yes, I also hate getting new stuff when the old still functions, but they kind of force you to when they don't support the old stuff anymore. Yeah, I've had experiences with that also, just with small things like at work. If an analytical instrument doesn't support new operating systems, and you have to use the old operating system and just hope that it doesn't get hacked, it doesn't have any problems, it doesn't get challenged in any way, it just continues to work, at least you hope that it will. But yeah, support for old things is definitely a big challenge. It is one of the reasons that I do Ubuntu for my computer, because I do believe open source software, while not a silver bullet that solves everything by any means, at least gives you some more control over what you're doing. But you do need to have a special interest in it to be able to do it. Stripey Crayon says, I find TikTok and other short videos very addictive, which is frustrating because there are so many interesting creative people making videos, but the delivery system rots my brain. Yeah, I can relate to that. I have my phone. I actually have my phone. People I talk to find it very disconcerting. I don't know if I can manage to show you, but I have my phone set up to lower saturation. It's not all the way to black and white, because it can be useful to see colors. Well, maybe you couldn't see that for very long. I'm not very good at this kind of... Oops. Well, there. But it's... I don't know if you can see this properly, but it's set to, I think, about 40% saturation. And now if I turn the saturation back up, I get super disoriented because it's so bright. And I read somewhere that it helps with things being slightly less addictive, engaging, because it's a little bit more of a grey rock. It's not quite so bad. But I don't know, I find that at least then I have to do my photo editing and other stuff on my computer, and try not to do so much doom scrolling on the TikTok and the Instagram and the various, because I really understand how it can be, especially if you're tired, if you're exhausted from work, or you're a bit depressed, or you're struggling, there are maybe things going on in your personal life and you need a break. And TikTok, of course, is perfect for that, because it turns your brain right off, and then suddenly it's been an hour and you didn't realize what was going on. But then it's hard to get out of that loop again. It's one of the reasons, it's another reason why I have an Ubuntu. It was that I used to be playing way too much World of Warcraft, of all things. from when I was a young adult and had my own money going to university, and right through like my mid-20s, although I did also do Viking reenactment at the time. And I would find that as I sort of stopped playing, and I would stop for a bit, come back to it, stop for some months, come back to it, stop for some years, come back to it. And I noticed that as I was more and more away from the game, when I would get the urge to play it again would be if I was depressed, if I was struggling, if I was having a hard time at work and I was exhausted. But what I did notice was that even though it felt really nice to play the evening away and just, you know, go to work, play game, sleep, repeat the next day and just not think, I did spend a lot longer getting out of the depression, getting out of that brain space and back to a healthier brain space, because the gaming would sort of continue for a bit longer than I eventually was comfortable with. But I knew I still would get those, you know, urges, inclinations when I was depressed for a while longer. So when my laptop at the time was at its very last leg, I think it was 12 years old at the time, and she was dying, she was not having a good time, she did not want to turn on, I bought my very first Ubuntu computer, and she has served me very well for over 10 years, over 15 years I think, until I needed to get a new one because video editing demands all the power, and that is the one I'm working on now. And of course on Ubuntu it was not so easy to learn to install World of Warcraft. There are emulators for it, there are things like Vine, but I forcefully did not let myself learn that because I wanted to get out of that mind space and wanted to help myself get away from it and do the stuff that I wanted to do, which was crafting and creative work and making things and having fun. It's a very long roundabout, but what I love about smartphones is that you can, in theory, install plant identification, birdsong identification, and astronomy apps on them, and then they allow you to look up when the next tram or bus goes from the stop near you. Yes, that is very fun. They can also do, I have an app on my phone that is for sign language, for Norwegian Sign Language. We have some ads in a moment, but give us a... Oh, madam, are you stuck to my sleeve? Oops, I'm sorry. Noise. But yeah, I have a sign language, for Norwegian Sign Language app on my phone with always the intention of trying to learn, but it's difficult when you don't have any deaf friends to talk to, is it? But at least if something were to happen, maybe we could communicate in some way. And it's something nice to use once in a while, isn't it? But yeah, there are lots of teaching apps on it, but they're not quite as alluring as the easily addictive one, aren't they? And that is part of the problem. Anna says, a smartphone is a necessity in my everyday life. I'd say I use it for everything except calling people. I can relate to that. If you're calling me, there better be a good reason, because I do not like it. It's been on silent since... I don't even remember when. It's been a while. I had to take it off silent for a family emergency last year, and it was unpleasant. Do not recommend. A smartphone is so useful when you're bedbound, though. Honestly, that's a good point. Being able to watch YouTube and talk to friends while prone is life-saving. Oh, I absolutely believe you in that. I mean, it is a small computer. It has so much power and potential, and we know a lot of countries in places like Africa, they just skipped the computer entirely and just developed infrastructure and things for smartphones, because most people couldn't afford a laptop, but they could afford a phone, and then they just jumped development step. And we see that sometimes, that they will just skip the whole petroleum step and jump... Ow, madam, you have claws. I should clearly be cutting them. And they just jump a couple of technology steps and onto a more suitable one. Is there a oh yeah, there's a moth. Please don't tear down my setup in your hunt for the moth. Rape Kristine's laptop. Yeah, she does get a bit noisy. And this is even a new one. Spouse keeps trying to get me to get a Mac, but I do like the freedom that I get from Ubuntu, even though I do have to learn a whole lot in order to manage to run it. But I still have my first Ubuntu laptop lying around as a backup. She is a very good computer. She served me well for a long time, and I would not have gotten a new one had it not been for video editing requiring all of the power. I had never realized that that was what all the graphic cards and everything was made for, was for video editing, because my goodness, it is very demanding. And suddenly gaming laptops and other things made a lot more sense, because yeah, if it hadn't been for trying to do content creation, I would not have needed a new computer. Yeah. So I really understand trying to not get new technology until you really, really have to. And it's also frustrating, isn't it? Having to set up a whole new thing, having to get rid of the old one, recycle it in a good way. And we know that recycling of electronics is challenging. Batteries are a problem full of rare earth metals that we haven't found a good way to recycle yet, which is frustrating because I remember my geochemistry. Madam, if you are lonely, you can come upstairs. You don't have to cry in the ground floor. We had a geochemistry professor who taught us about how there is a higher concentration now of rare earth metals in electronic waste than there is in the Earth's crust where we mine it from. So if we could find efficient ways of extracting the metals again from electronics that are no longer working, that would not fix, but at least help alleviate some of the issues that are related to mining and batteries. But there are still so many ethical challenges related to mining and batteries and disposal of batteries and all of those things that I do not take it lightly, the acquisition of new things with batteries that need to be replaced when they run out. Moth hunting is vital, do not interrupt. Yeah, but the moth ran away. It knew better. She was sitting on the glass, but then she realized the imminent danger she was in from little floof over here that is not very visible for you. On the video I do see cameras do have some struggles capturing the beauty of these black cats. Lulabelle says, oh, a live video, hello. Hello indeed, good evening, good time of day, good time to snuggle with a pet if one happens to share living space with one. We are ranting about, well, not phones per se, I suppose, but disposable technology and changing it quickly and not really wanting to do that. And me being in, usually I'm the one in the group who have technology that gets swapped out the least often, and yet here I find myself in the most excellent company of people who are even better than me at keeping on to their stuff for as long as possible, which we do wholeheartedly support. I am impressed and very much in favor of keeping things for as long as we possibly can and using things up. And well, you know all of the things, don't you? You hang out here for a reason, I should hope. Shall be very curious to see how many years we shall get good service out of this box of embroidery floss that, again, me being very spoilt, was given to me by a friend who likes to do thrift shops and estate sales, and she just finds all sorts of good things for very little money, because a lot of the time if someone has passed away, then the relatives just want to get the house emptied and sold and their grieving process on with, so you will get trash bags full of crafting tools for almost nothing. And she will frequently give me various tools or supplies, and I make it my mission to try to use it up. Because crafting tools want to be used, don't they? Crafting supplies want to be used. So if we can make do without buying too many new things, can't avoid buying new things entirely, but then at least we will have extended the lifetime of certain things beyond what perhaps they were planned to do. But yeah, I am very impressed indeed. I'm very lucky to have found a crowd of people that similarly don't feel the need to get a new phone or watch or I don't know, gadget. What are the new gadget people are doing these days? Weren't there all these videos a while back about these pairs of goggles that do all of these weird things? I don't know. I would not call myself an idealist or eco-friendly. My reason for not swapping out stuff is simply laziness. Whatever works, whatever gets the job done. To be honest, I feel like my reason for a lot of stuff is laziness a lot of the time too. It's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it still does something good, then I mean lean into it. There's no reason not to. A lot of the time, like with clothes shopping, I so dislike shopping for clothes. It's just not a good time, and I end up repairing things and mending things because I just can't stand buying clothes and I find it incredibly unpleasant. And it's not, again, like the sustainability is a benefit, but I also really dislike it. I mean, it would be a lot harder for me if I loved buying new clothes to buy less clothes, but Tuyan has to go make dinner. It's been lovely. See you all next time. Bye, Tuyan. Have a good time. Have a good dinner. Perhaps we shall see you another time. Lulabelle says, so very true. In material engineering school, we learned that the silicone goes around the planet 7 times between the time it is mined to the time it ends up in your phone. Oh, that is devastating. And yet not at all surprising. Thinking about all the times that fabric is first, well, the fiber is harvested and then sent to another part of the world to spin it, and then sometimes it is sent another place again to be woven and then to be finished and then sewn up into clothes and then shipped off into various parts of the world to be sold to the consumer. Similar thing, I don't know if it's as bad as silicone, but a similar thing where it moves so many times throughout the world before it eventually gets sold. And that is just so devastating because it's often something that gets forgotten. When you look at the tag and it says organic cotton or whatever, sustainable whatever, which is dubious claims to begin with, but they do claim those things, and they have no note about how many times it has traveled the world or how many, what shall I say, how much carbon has been spent in transportation, because indeed it can be a substantial amount that is quite often not spoken about as much as we talk about the carbon load of producing the garment in the first place. Sometimes that isn't included in the life cycle analysis tools and stuff like that, but often I find that it is omitted or under-reported because we just, I don't know, we underestimate just how much of an impact it has on the total calculation. Transport is a large sector. There was chaos nonetheless. Collage came out lovely. I'm now having second breakfast. As for a scrap left over from recent past project, I used those to mend an extant quilt, so sort of halfway to making a full quilt only out of leftover pieces. That sounds like an excellent project. To mend something with leftovers is very, very fun indeed. It is very rewarding. And absolutely something that I think is a lot of fun. It's one of the reasons I have, let's see, my sacrificial jeans, which were a erstwhile pair of jeans that got worn to the point where it could no longer be salvaged. And now I use them for patches, because it is still a lot of good fabric in it, just not in the places that always gets worn. Anna says most raw materials are like that. It's how most modern production works. Yeah, it's super frustrating, and it's so underrepresented. You don't talk about it so much, and it's yeah, it's one of the reasons that I want us to do more local stuff and support more local artisans who make local stuff, because then you reduce the transport cost, and you also support local artists, and you get something cool and unique that is local to you. And yeah, it's one of the reasons that it's hard for me to make lists of things that I want people to make, or brands that I think are good, because it depends on where in the world you are, and we don't really want to be encouraging consumerism, do we? As much as we exist in a very much consumerist world, and we do have to survive. But yeah, because I want people to find their own local gems and share them with others in their local community, or maybe even in the Discord group with other people, and share treasures that they find. Because what is local to me is not going to be local to other people. Most of you don't live in Norway, although I know there are a handful of you from Scandinavia, so there are none of you. But a lot of the time you're going to be on the other side of the globe, and I want you to find your own treasures, your own amazing carders and spinners and weaving mills and artists and all of the things, and let us know, show us that you found someone local to you, and let's see how local we can get, because that would be a cool project to talk about. Like how local can we be? I remember there was, what's her name again? Vicky Robbins, I want to say. She wrote Your Money or Your Life quite a while ago. Quite some decades ago, but then she also wrote a book that I can't remember the name of. I will have to Google it, but something about food, and the whole point was that she was living in an area and she tried to explore how close she could get her food supply, because again, it's something that we don't talk about so much, is it? Books. Where is it? I do think it was Vicky Robin. Yes, Blessing the Hands That Feed Us. Can I find it? Is this the... No, not Amazon. You can find somewhere else. What about... Oh, her website. Surely her website should be enjoyable. See, there it is. Blessing the Hands That Feeds Us. I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoy Vicky Robbins' writing style. It's very nice and casual and storytelling. Like she's telling you a story about her life. It was something that I enjoyed. So if you have a library where you get things in English, then it could be a good read. But she tried to eat locally for a year, just to see what that felt like. Because again, the transport can be a big thing, although I feel like I can't mention books about these things without mentioning Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, because it is such an amazing book. She is such an amazing storyteller. It was the most amazing experience to have that book read to you on audiobook by the author herself. Thoroughly recommend. I almost intentionally, it's a pretty long audiobook to begin with, but I almost intentionally would do just one story at a time and then put the book away, because I wanted the book to last for as long as possible. I was so much enjoying listening to her voice and her excellent storytelling skills, just beyond anything I could hope to imagine at present. Just so good. But yeah, Vicki Robbins did an experiment where she was eating as locally as she could for a year, and I try to do that more and more as well, where I'm like trying to look for the Norwegian carrots and potatoes, and there's still some oranges from Spain and the occasional things like that, but trying to have more root veg in winter and then more fruit and berries in summer, because that is when they're actually available. And it gives me so much joy, because now I look more forward to fruits coming into season, and it's a lot more fun. And ads are coming, so apparently we are having a hydration break. Do remember to keep thyself up to speed with that. See, Julia says, this is why I avoid buying fruits that are organically grown on the other side of the globe. Yeah, same, to be honest. I'm more focusing on trying to support local artists and farmers, because that can be really challenging. Alex says, I get my breakfast from my backyard. I have a few chickens and have been eating eggs for breakfast almost every day for almost 2 years. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I hope we can have a garden one day. It is... Well, we have a tiny bit of an outside garden, but we are still reliant on plant pots and stuff like that. But I hope to have a backyard at some point in the future. That would be lovely to try to grow my green thumb and grow more carrots and potatoes and other things one day maybe. So that is excellent that you are doing that. That is so cool. And I see Joanna agrees that it is indeed very cool to seize back some of the means of production. And Joanna also says, I grow veggies and berries on a plot in a community garden near me. I don't buy strawberries or blueberries anymore, particularly from Spain. Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman from Spain who was, when I was working as a landscape gardener during summers when I was doing my undergrad, and also later, because they were an excellent team, and sometimes I would just be like, I have summers off, do you need a crewmate? And they would be like, yes, we'll put you in the calendar. And it was a great time to spend, great way to spend a summer, working and being outside and maintaining the greens area of the university. But he told me all about those sort of plastic areas where they have all of these polytunnels, these growing tunnels, just acres and acres and acres of plastic as far as the eye can see. A lot of issues with labor disputes and bad labor practices, and abusing migrants and people who really need to be protected, and just a lot of pesticides, a lot of challenges all around, I suppose, is a good summary. So I have become more wary, but at the end of the day I try to just buy more local and supporting local farmers. And I urge everyone, well, not urge, people have to follow their own budget, but it's one of the reasons why it's difficult to, I can say that I found this great product that I think is fantastic, but I'm not really trying to sell it to you, because I want you to find your own local treasures and your own local amazing whatever you have, wool or fleece or food or various fun things, is a good summary of that, I suppose. What shall we be up to next? I suppose we could... Is it enough? Try to add some more fun bits to the gingham. I'll have to get more yarn, I think. I don't think this is enough for for anything much, but there's only one way to find out. What are we doing for a pattern? I don't know. Should probably Google that, shouldn't I? images. Ooh, I don't think we are going quite that ambitious, but they are lovely. Yeah, let's stick with simple crosses to begin with. But yeah, it is an interesting balance between trying to be a conscious consumer, but also knowing that corporations need to do more in order to get anywhere at all. But still having that urge, that want to try to do things on a personal level as well. And these things take time, don't they? Sometimes I will meet new people and they will be flabbergasted by all the tiny little habits that I have throughout the day, which I don't even think about anymore because they've just become such a normalized part of daily life. Like bringing cloth bags and having some crocheted nets for fruit and veg that can just be thrown in a laundry bag in the washing machine, and I don't even know. Eating leftovers? Some people are flabbergasted by that, which I am equally flabbergasted by people not eating leftovers, because that's food, that's money. As a student, you couldn't really afford to not eat leftovers, and indeed bulk cooking was an excellent way to not have to cook every day. But it's not that I woke up one day and just choose to do all of the things. It's all about trying out one thing and seeing if it works for your lifestyle, and then trying out something else, seeing if that works. It becomes a habit, you have mental capacity to try something else. It's all just trying to do one thing after another, isn't it? And then over time, it accumulates. People really underestimate how much stuff can accumulate if you just try to do one thing at a time, until one day you've done a lot of things. Toria says, good evening here from Zealand, Denmark. I buy Danish food first and foremost. Yes, that's exactly what we've been chatting about, trying to get food that is local to us and seasonal as well, which for us here in Scandinavia means more root veg and stuff in winter, although apples store remarkably well in winter too, and more fruits and berries in the glorious summertime that is upon us now. And I also find that I want these things during times like you want more light food, maybe berries when it's hot, and you want nice hearty stews when it's cold, so it all works itself out somehow. I don't think this is how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it all the way into the edge, and yet we are rebelling against that and just doing it whatever we fancy. Huh, turns out we had enough yarn after all, which is very nice. Maybe now we shall have to do even more colorful stuff in this one, just to show the world that we can. We are indeed allowed to use colors. That is one thing that makes me a little bit sad, the whole grayification, which, well, not such a big problem per se. It's a little bit sad, like the whole buildings becoming more and more gray to the point where you can measure it with satellites, that we paint our houses gray, our driveways are gray, our cars are gray. We don't really want to choose color anymore. It's sad in a different way. So sometimes I remind myself that colors are indeed something we are allowed to choose. Oops. Glenn says, I remember a student in a shared house I was in who not only ate only pre-cooked packaged meals, but also never finished them and threw them out. I was so shocked. Oh wow. And yeah, same, like the waste itself is shocking, but who has that kind of money to throw away? Yeah. It's flabbergasting to me. It's yeah, and then often they also will complain about not having money, which is ironic. But when Spouse was studying in London, they encountered some, because London is such a big city and a place where truly wealthy people study, and they talked about having met students who they didn't realize washing machines were a thing. They just were used to putting their used clothes out in the hallway for their help to pick up and, either discard or take over themselves. They only used clothes once, which I hear this is a thing with Shane and stuff like that, that people are wearing clothes only once, but it still baffles me. I have never met someone who does that. That is so alien to me, and just how? And yeah, where do you find all that money? Plus, trying on clothes and trying to find something that fits is a problem in itself, and no thank you. I would rather wear... If my clothes never wore out, I would rather just keep wearing them until I don't have to anymore. Thank you. Leia says, you just reminded me of the raspberries I have in the fridge, also from the region here. Ooh, that reminds me that Spouse picked some strawberries from outside earlier, from our tiny container garden, and maybe I shall have them as a snack later. Homegrown strawberries are really good. They're so sweet, they're so nice. We are getting to the end of the bottle, which means that, yes, indeed, we've almost been going on for 2 hours, which seems to be sort of the comfort time. A good time for a sit down and a good time for talking and various stuff. What shall we do with a tiny, tiny amount of brown? Because then I get it out of the embroidery box. But that means we have to find somewhere where you can fit. I don't have a lot of small spaces. Could you fit over here? I feel like this is some kind of game we play, trying to use threads to their fullest. What are you doing over there? Oh yes, my balcony strawberries were awesome too. They have vanished into my stomach though. Our plants are surprisingly still producing, which is lovely. And our salad, I have been really shocked. And I can't remember what you say in English, but there is a term for, at least in Norwegian, when the plant of lettuce will send out the flower, and in Norwegian you call it something like go to seed. And then the rest of the plants sort of becomes sad and not very tasty. But I don't know if we accidentally got some lettuce that is more heat tolerant, because it has been producing lettuce for us throughout since we bought them in spring and is still going. They haven't, knock on wood, gone. I think the term is gone to seed or gone to stock yet, and I'm shocked because it's been warm in large periods of time, and yet. Lynn says lazy daisy. Can I remember how to do a lazy daisy? I need to look it up. Make sure that I have the right terminology. Embroidery. Click. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. A flower. Can do a little flower for this brown. It'll be a brown flower. We don't mind, because it's such a small amount, and that is actually a really good fit. Let us put you... If we put it over here, will there be room without ruining the... without it getting into the binding when we get that far? Accidental community project. How fun. Julia says, the whole wearing clothes just once thing baffles me as well. I never wear clothes before washing them first because I'm just never sure they're actually clean. That's a very good point as well. Absolutely a stellar point there. I've gotten better at that too. Also to just get out a lot of the finishing chemicals that that hangs out in the clothes. Bug works good for brown. That is very true. I did start the Lazy Daisy though, so let's make a cute little brown Lazy Daisy of some kind. Maybe we can make a bug later. I'm not sure how I would make one though. How would one embroider such a thing? But yeah, I don't understand wearing a piece of clothing just once. I don't like sometimes if you get invited to weddings or formal events, I have to be like, oh, do I have any formal wear? I will have to find something. And it frustrates me because then you have it and it just hangs in your wardrobe until you need it again. Or you start using it and then implementing it into your daily wardrobe. And then of course, if you're invited to another formal event, you need more formal clothes and then they're just hanging out in your wardrobe. And it kind of frustrates me because it's hanging there, taking up space in your wardrobe, but you don't need it all that often. And yet, when you need it, you kind of have to have it because it's respectful or something. I don't know. Clothes are difficult. I just want something that keeps me temperature regulated and appropriate to society and moderately comfortable. See, Stripey Crayon says, it's almost blackberry season here and I'm so looking forward to the local park being full of my favorite berry. Oh, that sounds lovely. It's actually meadowsweet season here at the moment, which would usually mean that I would be making cordial with it, but this year we are having a lot of other things going on, so I shall skip it this year for the first year in a while. But it is a flower that you boil with lemon and sugar and you make a sort of concentrate that you can dilute with water for a refreshing, slightly bitter summer drink. Great with ice cubes, but we still have some from last year, so don't have to do that at present. Ooh, we are indeed having a very small piece of brown. And we are about to have ads. I wonder if I have time to show you my Lazy Daisy before the ads. I think it'll be a close race. Oh, I don't think I'm fast enough. You might have to wait until the capitalism has rained upon us for a little while. Ooh. Well, we still fasten the thread. I call that a success. We are 1.5 to 2 inches of thread. I call that a whopping success in terms of using up a little bit more embroidery floss. Which means that if there have been ads, I should hydrate. Although I have been hydrating outside of the ads as well. Let's see if you can see this. Ads don't seem to usually last that long, so no, you're not quite perfect, but let's see if we can show the. There we go, one little brown Lazy Daisy at the edge. Let's see if we find. Joanna says bug works good for brown too, and bug is a circle and a smaller circle attached than 6 sticks out of a large circle for leg. Many beetles do not even have visibly separated heads, so you can make an oval and separate one end of it with 2 stitches. That is a good point, and I guess we could also make something like a little spider, a little round thing with 8 legs. I think one other requirement for clothing is that dresses must have a decent swoosh. That is a good requirement indeed. Let's see, we have time for one. little bug before we pop off. Any requests as to color? What do we have? We have some baby pink, which I'm not good. I don't have any hot pink, which could be a fun little bug. Is this a hot pink? Or we could... I have a lot of blue silk, but I feel like I've used a fair bit of blue silk in other things. I have a lot of this greenish yellow, which... oh, why is there something in my eye? Rude. Purple bug maybe? Do I have a lot of purple? Bugs are usually black, aren't they? At least from a distance. I do have more brown, so we could just do more brown. It shall be interesting how our embroidery will progress when when this box gets more and more empty in terms of supplies and we end up having not very many colors at all. Can I untie this? How? Previous owner of this batch of embroidery floss, what have you done? What have you done? I thought it was just a slip knot, but... aha, you have just wound it around. Here we go. Ooh, and I suppose for a bug we shouldn't get too much thread because that will kind of counter the whole trying to, well... I should just wind you up all over again, shouldn't I? You don't seem to be in the best of shape. Oop. Daisy is cute. Why, thank you. It's nice to have some easy reminders of very easy stitches that can look very impactful. It's one of the reasons I really like the decorative embroidery stitches, is that they often aren't all that complicated, but again, when you add them all up into a large project, they do look nice. Come on, Madam Skin, we was making a little bug before calling it a night, and yet you are being most uncooperative. This is something I loved to do as a kid, just sitting and just untying yarn that had gotten into knots and someone else had given up on. I don't know, there's something quite relaxing about just untying lots and lots of knots. Because there's always a way out of it, isn't it? Unless it's super, super tight knot or a very tangled something or something very loose. But embroidery floss like this, which is very defined, it's a benefit of cotton, I suppose. Usually there's a way out. We are making progress. Where is your hiccup? Belle says, hello, I just finished watching old Craft and Chill crocheting, not knowing there was a live one in the happening. Oh well, it happens, doesn't it? But welcome. I'm afraid we are considering patching things up in a while, but I have feelings that I have promised the audience to embroider a little bug of some description first, so we shall try to do that. But before that we must untangle this here old skein of embroidery floss because it is being most uncooperative. But I hope you are staying safe, Catboy. It is very warm in Norway today, so knowing you are significantly further south, I do hope you stay most safe and secure and have ways of dealing with, have plenty of water to hand and such things. So much good advice from people who actually live in hot climates in ways to dealing with it. I remember people talking about just, if you don't have fans, getting a wet towel and hanging it up, and the evaporation helping with the cooling down of the room. And I have employed this myself, and indeed it helps a great deal, to the point where I will almost be like, I can volunteer to hang up the laundry because it means I will be in the bathroom where the clothes shall be drying and the climate shall be cooling down. And it makes sense because it takes energy to evaporate, but seeing it in action is something else. Yay, Bug, I too used to love untangling. Yeah, there's something to it, isn't it? Something just innocently satisfying about reclaiming ever-increasing amounts of yarn. Hello, are you returning to us, madam? Or your bug hunt unsuccessful? Hello? I feel like we have hit upon a more challenging section. Cooling yourself down with a damp cloth through the back of the neck helps too. Yes, very, very much so. So many clever ways to do it if you can't use too much electricity or don't have air condition or something like that. There's so much good advice. Although I am deeply fascinated by people in the past, a lot of the time designing their houses with whatever climate they experienced the most in their region in mind, and having local architecture that is actually suited to where things are built. Not so much whatever is architecturally in fashion. Lynn says it suddenly got very hot here too. Yeah, it's the same over here, but we are getting some rain tonight and tomorrow, so fingers crossed that will cool things down a little bit, but I don't think it shall last, so we shall see how things go. Jinx Leah says, oh, I just finished moving a ton of compost and logs to build some garden beds. Exhausted and thrilled to get it done. And open YouTube to find I'm doing it live. Well, they seem to be happening. More recently, we're hanging out. Right now, we are just trying to reclaim a piece of embroidery floss, and it doesn't really want to collaborate with us. So we shall see if I can actually manage to reclaim it, or if I need to admit a loss, but where, oh where have my other end goes? Catpaw says, yes, only got air conditioning for sleeping. Need a break from the heat about a month ago. It's horribly humid here. Yeah, I can understand that. My spouse also struggles with heat regulation, and they are very fond of their AC, but they try not to use it too much because, yeah, it adds up pretty quickly, doesn't it? Plus the whole talk about since the sum of air conditioning is heating up, does that actually affect the temperature of the world and other such experimental thoughts? There you are. Jinx Leah says we actually cooled down for the day, which is why I moved all the compost. Oh, nice. Yeah, hopefully it shall be a cooler day for us here tomorrow. I am looking forward to that. And then we shall see how the summer continues to treat us. It's never something we can predict, is it? So recent meteorology and weather forecasting is quite challenging topics to work with. Ooh. I feel like we are getting somewhere. We have but one more knot to go, I think. So I can only... Are you a singular? What? I might have been mistaken. Who? Julia asks, any advice for how to cool down in hot and humid climate? Laundry is not really drying right now and the rain did not cool things down. Oh, that does sound exhausting. I hope you get some relief from that. I'm not sure I could offer any advice, being from a country that does not have too many problems with the heat usually. Oops, so very lucky in that regard. But yeah, when we lived in London too, and it was quite humid, probably not as humid as you have it either, but it was very challenging to get clothes to dry. I certainly understand needing clothes dryers in that scenario. Hot and humid is the worst? Yeah, I can imagine. Basically, you could only be completely naked and prop yourself in front of a ventilator or fan. That does sound like it would make doing anything else quite difficult. Oh, we have some fluff here. I think that is why we're struggling. Hello. I bought a... Catpaw says, I bought a dehumidifier. The evaporated water is great for washing your hair. Makes it very soft, but I hear you. The rain only turns the world into a steam sauna. Oh, that does sound like not a good time. My goodness. Some of you really do have weather, don't you? Lynn says, I just run a bath of cold water and get into it regularly. That does sound like something that, if water is not a problem, could be indeed something to do. And cold water is not as expensive as hot water, at least, unless you are in a region where water is quite scarce. Do we always end up talking about weather on this live stream in various ways because we are so fascinated by people living in different parts of the world? I am interesting at parties, I swear. Madam Not, will you yield? Where is the tail end? How are you? Jinx Leah says, can you freeze bottles of water? If so, wrap a hand towel around them when you use them. It really helps in humid climates. Interesting. Yeah, freezers are very nice in the heat to be able to freeze ice cube trays and similar things. I wonder if I just need to wait with this one, but I want to finish it. Stripey Crayon says, loose, flowy clothing, ice cube on your tongue if you can get it. Basement and shade. Oh, basements are gold if they are accessible, but I understand they are not something that is safe in all of the world, so it's not always something that one can access, but oh my goodness, they are so amazing if you actually have access to them when it is warm. Absolutely. Oops. And we are about to have ads again, so I shall fight with this one until that, and maybe while we have ads, and then we shall have to press on. Hydration. Goodbye, Leia. I hope you have a good time of day, whatever that looks like to you. And Captain 2 talks about 2-liter bottles take 3 days to freeze and lasts most of the night for cooling. That is interesting and very valuable knowledge when necessary. Shouldn't need too much. And then we can turn this into a mini skein, a mini hank, to hopefully keep it from tangling in the future. But they are ridiculously small. But I think they are cute, and they do help keeping things organized in this box of overflowing color wealth. Now let's see if we can make some cute little bugs. And since I'm not the most realistic of embroiderers, I am hoping that a bug is within achievable ambitions. I've seen some of the gloriously beautiful embroideries that people will do of pets in all sorts of colors, like so many colors and so detailed and so beautiful. I don't think that is something I could do, but my goodness, they are so amazing. Just absolutely stunning. Over here, maybe. Sometimes the answer is making your skin, but not deeper, warmer to enhance the amount of heat that will radiate and use to evaporate sweat. Sounds counterintuitive, but I've tried it and it works. That sounds similar to the advice that I remember hearing as a child, where you would be confused by adults drinking hot coffee in hot weather, but the argument being that if it's hot and you drink something hot, your body works to cool it down, whereas if you drink something cold, your body will work to heat it up, to bring it to body temperature, and conversely you will end up warmer, which I always found fascinating, and I'm not sure sure it's the case, but interesting nonetheless. I do wonder about a lot of the science to those things. I'm very lucky in that I'm relatively, at least compared to some other people I know, have a relatively decent heat regulation, which really helps. How big should a bug be? I suppose if we can give it a tiny bit of a head, it could be a little ant. Ants are cute. Abstract art bug is fine. I'm glad, because I'm not sure you can get anything else. Anything that relies on evaporating loses most of its efficiency when it's very humid, unfortunately. Yeah, that is very true. That if it relies on that, then if the air is already saturated, then there isn't all that much we can do. Abstract art ant is even better. I don't know if this is an ant. Maybe. I think. Wait, ants have more balls on their body, like they are more. Oh well, it shall be what it will be. Sabina says, one of my friends embroidered a fly on her shirt and everyone keeps trying to wave it off her. That's hilarious. I love that. I feel like this is not an ant, but a spider. So let's give her 8 little legs, and can do another one that is a... I think ants have at least 3 different little round parts to their body. One larger one and some smaller ones. Ooh, and they have antennae. Wait, this is getting out of hand. The purpose of drinking something is pure dehydration. It's better to drink lukewarm than iced water, that way your body does not need to heat it up when absorbing it. Yeah, that's what I heard about adults drinking coffee when I was a child, and that was what their argument was too. And it is quite interesting that there is a lot of basis to that argument as well. Lukewarm water is not quite as appealing as nice ice-cold water, though, is it? Even if we understand the science behind it. I feel like it's always very risky to make anything without a reference and then go, I remember what that looks like there. And then you draw something and it doesn't look at all like that. I feel like that is what we're doing at the moment. Oh, this is gonna vanish in the And the binding too, isn't it? Maria says, we tend to reuse spray bottles to spritz ourselves with water and fan ourselves with whatever is closest. Last summer we had a 21-day streak heat wave. Do not recommend. Oh, that does sound like a terrible time. I'm glad you are still here and safe, because woof, that is a very long time to have continuous heat wave. Yeah, when I was in band as a kid, we had some designated adults, especially when it was warm, to go around with spray bottles and spray you in the face, or in the mouth if you were thirsty, with cold water, or I guess it was lukewarm, but it was water in any case, to cool people down when you're standing there in uniform and you can't really move anywhere. And that was most welcome. It was a practice that a lot of bands, school bands, implemented, because it really helped with things like heat exhaustion and such sundry not so savory things. More thread left. We have to use more thread. Maybe we do a lazy daisy as well. Lazy daisy and bugs. How about that? I feel like I should do some pink or colorful lazy daisies as well. Maybe we should fill various parts of it, of the cloth, with various lazy daisies in all the colors of the rainbow. I remember why it's so much fun to do these projects. What are you doing over there, madam? You're supposed to be tied down by the second stitch, not hang out all loosely. It's very rude. What is the finished patchwork meant to be, by the way? Well, this is just a... I had more of these sturdy backing cloth left for one large one like this, similar to the one I made in the video, like a, let's see, a knitting bag type little pouch. I'm thinking could either be a gift for someone's knitting needles, or maybe it's a toiletries bag or something like that. I feel like a pouch of this size can be useful for many different things. So beyond, I think it shall be a pouch similar to the video that I made. I haven't really made up my mind, but I had enough of the backing fabric for another large pouch bag thing, and two small ones. And one of the small ones I have already made into a tiny little sewing bag for a loved one as a gift, and I have enough again for one more tiny little scrap fabric pouch that might work very well as a housif for a sewing kit, so I might do that. But at the moment we are trying to finish one crazy patchwork at a time. I talked about this at the beginning of the live, but it would be so fun to make a crazy patchwork actual woolen blanket or bedspread or something large, but it would take so long that I'm not sure it would be feasible, and I'm not even sure I have enough scrap fabrics to do something like that. It would be like a forever project that would just be running in the background, and you may or may not finish it in time, or maybe you won't. But I kind of like the idea of that. Maybe you'll make a lot of little squares similar to how Patchwork makes squares for, or blocks for, bigger projects, and you make some for different projects and some for various things. That could be fun. A lazy daisy crazy quilt sounds very cute. Maybe we shall try to do something like that, because they are very cute. And currently we just have two brown ones, and I feel like Lazy daisies deserve to be all sorts of different fun colors, so maybe in time we shall continue working on this one and create all sorts of different colors, because you need to put something in between the edges, don't you? I didn't do that very much with the videos, but I have been doing that with this one, and it has been great fun. So I think that is a solid plan for something that we can do. This tiny little scrap of fabric ended up being a lot more decorated than I had initially planned for, but we do not mind. Lazy daisies are very quick to make too. I feel like they are very quick to make for how decorative they are. In a way that it looks like they take a lot longer to make than they actually do, which I think is quite fun, especially if you string a lot of them together and make it into a larger theme. That can be a lot of fun. And I think this shall be as much thread as we will get out of this. So that is most excellent suggestion, because it turns out that it works out perfectly. I got bit by that bug some years ago and made not one but 2 crazy quilts. One which I used in the winter. I also have one I named Gratitude, which I made when recovering after a traffic accident. Oh, I'm glad you are better. Oof, that sounds scary. Cars are so big and heavy, aren't they? So things can be quite serious when something happens, so that seems like a good way to spend one's time while recovering. It took me about 8 months, but it does not have any embroidery, but everything is sewn by hand with tiny hand stitches. Oh, that sounds lovely. It sounds so sweet, honestly. It's there are so many good ideas, so many crafts, so little time. How can we do even half of all the things that we want to do? I am very glad that you are feeling better, at least good enough to join us for these lives. That does sound very scary. Come on. Do we know when to stop so that we don't have a thread we have to fight with to fasten? No. Will we change? Probably not. You're speaking of my deepest problem, Kristine? You mean so many projects or so many crafts, so little time? Yeah, I know. We want to do all of the things, don't we? Let's see. Loxalair, hello. I'm sorry, I am afraid you are joining just as we are starting to wrap up, but you get a little bit of a... I hope you are not afraid of bugs, because we have been trying to embroider some, and I'm not sure how successful we are, but we have a few lazy daisies and some attempts at bugs. I am not sure how obvious they are, but they are great fun. And now we have some plans for more projects, and we also have... Oh, I don't know if I showed this, but I made little crosses over the... what shall I call it? The gingham embroidery that we happened to be able to do. So we had orange and some green crosses, and then probably we'll find something of a lighter color that we can add to as well. Maybe when we make those pink lazy daisies or bugs, we can add a bit more to the gingham embroidery. And now I want to do... Ooh, look, I have 2 more sections of gingham fabric. We have one over here that is quite large, actually, that could make a very nice large gingham embroidery patch and a tiny one over here. So that might be something we must work on at another time, but for now I am warm and in need of going downstairs out of the workroom for a moment, because we know hot air rises and the workroom does get quite warm in summer. But this has been a lovely time. I know what I want to work on next live. I think we shall continue with this one. Hopefully we will get to finishing it at some point. Lux Alaire says, I'm fixing a moth-eaten sweater with some leaf embroidery, and I put a ladybug on the shoulder and a moth applique over a cluster of holes that was too many to embroider. Oh, I love that. I have been known to, I mean, leaf embroidery is probably my go-to for all those, you know, the tiny, tiny holes that tend to pop up in knitted, you know, long sleeved t-shirts in quite thin knitted materials. You will often get these tiny holes that are annoying enough to, you know, be bothersome and get worse and need something to fix. So a little leaf has become my sort of go-to fix for that. But adding bugs and moths and ladybugs as well does sound super, super cute. But I think that shall be it for today. I need to go hydrate some more, but I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, rest of your day. All things, you know, considering, we shall try to meet up again next Thursday, same time. That is my intention, unless migraines happen, in which case I will let you know in the Discord if you have access to such things. But I'm trying to do lives on Thursdays going forward. It's not a hard and fast schedule, just because health permitting, but that is the intent, that is the hope. So maybe I will see you, maybe I won't. Anyway, have a lovely rest of your week, rest of your month. It shall be the other side of, you know, the year by the time I see you next. So stay safe and bye.